When you want information to appear at the top or bottom of every page in your document, you don't need to type it in or enter it into those areas on every single page. You can use something called a header or a footer, which will automatically repeat what you enter into those areas for every page in your document. It saves you a lot of time and work. So let's take a look at a document here where we have headers and footers. It's called Home Recipes Final. Page 1 has a logo and some title information, but nothing really at the top or bottom of the page. But once we get to page 2, we do see, kind of faded in the background, the logo and some text. And at the bottom of page 2, we see some page numbering. And then it's repeated for page 3, the logo and text and the page numbering. So it's actually using headers and footers here, but something different on page 1, nothing at all. So let's see how that's done. We can close up this document or just minimize it, and we're going to switch to another document called Home Recipes 1. So page 1 you can see has our logo and our title, but when we get to page 2 we see the customer letter, no page numbering at the bottom, same thing for page 3. So it's time to insert our headers and footers. So how do we do that? Well, all you need to do is double click in the right area. Double click near the very top of your page or near the very bottom of your page and you'll be inside your headers and footers. Let's go down to page 2 here and click with the ruler visible on the page next to the shaded area, meaning we're inside the top margin. Now if you don't see your ruler, just go to the View tab and turn it on from there. And then double clicking allows you to know exactly where you are on the page. And in this case, we're inside the top margin, which is our header area. Notice your cursor flashing, it says header, and at the bottom of page 2 it says footer. Same thing if we move down to page 3, header and footer. But if we go to the top of our document on page 1, at the bottom it says first page footer, and at the top, first page header. In other words, we can have something different on page 1 than the other pages in our document, and that's because, look what's happened up here on the ribbon, a new tab has just appeared with some context-sensitive header and footer tools, including in the options a check mark next to different first page. That's why we're able to have nothing on page 1 and something on every other page. But if you want the same thing on every page, including page 1, you would deselect that and it becomes a simple header and footer as opposed to a first page header and footer. We do want something different, so we're going to keep it checked. And here's where we want to be on page 2. We want the logo and some text in here. Well, do we have enough room? We might need to adjust our margins, and we can do that before or after the fact. Let's start by inserting our text. So all we're going to do is type in the following: Essential Veggie Recipes for No Obstacles Kitchen. If you want, you can add the TM and use the superscript that we talked about in the fonts chapter. Once we have that in there, we might also want it to be centered. So you can be anywhere on the line when you go back to the Home tab here and choose Centering in the Paragraph section. Now let's just click in front of the E in Essential because we want to insert the logo ahead of this, so it'll push our text down. We could hit Enter right now just to bump it down and move the cursor back up with our cursor key. Really doesn't matter. We're going to insert, though, a graphic, so we'll go to the Insert tab and choose Pictures. And from the Chapter 5 folder, you will find the NOH logo file, which is our No Obstacles Home logo. Click it to select it, then click Insert. And will be inserted right where a cursor was flashing. Way too big, so we can size that down. Let's do that. Click and drag it down to an acceptable size. Doesn't really need to overpower. And we'll also change the layout so we can move it around. Let's click right there on the Layout Options icon and choose With Text Wrapping. And let's choose this one down here, top and bottom. So text can't go on the left or right. It can only appear above or below. That looks pretty good, just like that. So we'll close this up. And we'll go down to our footer section. Now here, when we click inside, we want that to be centered as well, and we want page numbering. So let's start by going to the Paragraph section of our Home tab on the ribbon and center. Now we're not going to insert a 2 here because it will have a number 2 appearing at the bottom of every page after page 1. What we really want is to insert page numbering. So we can do that from the Insert tab, and you'll see page number here in the header and footer section. Click the drop down. And we don't really want to choose one of these presets like top, bottom, page margins. We want the current position. We're already in position to put our page numbering in there. And when we hover over it, we see some preset options to choose from, like a plain number, very small number, very difficult to see. We could also have an accent bar with the word page showing up before or after. I kind of like this one, but if we want it to be exactly like our other document, it's just going to be a simple number. But I think a larger number might be good, so we can actually see it here in our presets. So let's scroll down, and we do get into some large ones. Large, large color, large italics. Let's just go with large right here, large 1. Select it, and the number appears. Now notice it's off to the left, and that's because of the formatting that comes with it. And our cursor's flashing down here. We'll hit backspace to take out that space, backspace again, so we're not using up a blank line. And now here's where we want to center. Now you can click to select everything, and then go up to the Home tab and center it, just like we did with our other text. And now we have it right where we want it. When we're done, all we do is just double click anywhere in the page itself outside of the header or footer, or go back to the Design tab, and you'll notice here we can also insert header, footer, and page numbering from here, just like we saw from the Insert tab. But what we really want to do is click the Close button to close up the headers and footers. So as we scroll down now, we're going to see our information doesn't appear at the top of page 1 or at the bottom of page 1, but it does appear at the top of page 2 and page numbering at the bottom of page 2. There it is on page 3, and our numbering is appropriate for page 3. Now again, we might want to adjust things like our margins. If we click anywhere on page 3, for example, we see that it's getting a little close to our content. So we can increase margins to create some space between our header and our content. That can be done on any page. If we go to page 2 to do it, clicking right in front of Dear, we know it'll affect all of our content from here down. So let's go to the ruler, get the double arrow showing up, and just click and drag it down. Now what might happen is you'll see text disappear. In other words, there might be some returns in there. We'll just click anywhere in the page itself and hit your delete key, and it comes back. So there we go. We have some space now between our header and our content. We have our footer in place, page numbering, and it continues on the next page with a little space. That looks much better, a little easier to read. And we didn't have to insert that information on every page. We just did it once in our header and our footer, and it appears on every page, no matter how long our document is.